Hi everyone, and welcome to our devotions for this week. Sorry that the ambiance isn't so great, just at home filming today. Today we're talking about prayer, as we've been preaching about this month. And prayer is a really important part of our lives, but thankfully Jesus taught us how to pray. I want to read to you the Lord's Prayer, and then we're just going to draw some things out of that for during this week for us to consider. So this is how it goes. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 8, Jesus is teaching us to pray, not like the others, meaning he's got something to teach us about God while he's teaching us to pray. He says, don't be like them because your Father knows what you need even before you ask. He says this, pray then like this, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So we just want to break down the 5 elements that we find here in this Lord's Prayer as he teaches us about how it is that we learn to come into the presence of God who loves us so much. He is not like the God of other people's imaginations. God is a very caring, compassionate, and understanding God who is also great and powerful. When we use prayer, we're not doing something to earn something from God. We're not getting the divine to come and do our bidding. We're entering into a relationship with a Father who loves us already very, very deeply. And so the very first thing that Jesus tells us to do when we are praying is that we need to pray like this. We praise, we say, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be hallowed be your name. The very first thing we say is thank you. The first thing we do when we enter into God's presence is we give him glory. Psalm 100 verses 2 to 4 says, Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God, and it is he who made us. And we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his name. The first thing that we should do when we pray is that we should be coming into God's presence with a thankful heart, because thankfulness is actually a faith recognition that God is great, he's loving, he's compassionate. He's not like some people's imagination of God where he's reluctant to help us or only going to help us if we deserve it, or if we nag him so consistently, then we'll ultimately get it. No, praise is a way of releasing our faith. It's a way of us expressing the fact that we believe. And Jesus always taught that you will get what you believe, in a sense that you will receive according to your faith. So faith then is the focus on God's goodness. And we only become aware of that when we worship first. So in a way, if you're coming to God and you're just so concerned about yourself and you're not aware of God's goodness, then your faith is going to be limited to your focus. So Jesus says, first thing you do when you get into God's presence is look up to his goodness, his glory. Praise his name because it's personal. It is someone that you are worshiping. It's not something. And I just love this phrase that I picked up years ago from a guy named Terry Law. He taught that praise releases faith. So as we come into the presence of God, the first thing that we do is worship. So why don't you do that today? Why don't you take a moment as you're praying to just remember all of the things that you can remember about God's goodness. Maybe it's stories about Jesus. Maybe it's ways that God's helped you in your life. But as you spend time today in thanksgiving, then your faith for God's answer and work and loving care in your life will just grow. So God bless you. Thanks for joining us today with Devotions of Pastor Joe.